Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast of Bitcoin Media, a digital marketing company from India. We have a guest for today, Richard, the author of Remarkable Business Growth, Amazon number one best book selling, and the founder of Leadnomics Software. He himself also run an agency, a consultancy for digital marketing and the world marketing in UK. So, welcome, Richard. How are you?
I'm very good, Shivam. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, Richard, thanks for giving me a time today. And I am here with some questions which has been asked with day-to-day call with the small business owner, mid-sized business owners. And I know that you have the complete understanding and the answers for them. So these questions are basically from different parts of the countries. Like it's not only for India, UK, or Australia. It's from all over the world. So I'm just going to ask you the question one by one, and you have to explain to the person because these viewers are not going to be like complete technical, but
No?
non technical too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
So,
perfect. No
so,
problem.
so my first question for you is just if somebody's been starting their B2B business, right, anywhere
Yep,
in the world
yep.
from the scratch. So, what's your suggestion? How they can just start that?
Well, I think the most successful businesses I've seen are very focused on going deep and narrow into niches and identifying problems and solving those problems. So whenever I'm working with a client, I would always say, start thinking strategically about that business from day one. Don't just get stuck in and do every day, which is what a lot of business owners I come across. They're good at a certain skill, so they set up a business in that and try and find as many businesses as they can to sell it to. You really want to identify what your core offerings are and what you're really good at. And I'm assuming that most of these people watching this will be small teams of one or maybe two of them, maybe a founder and a co-founder initially, and then they'll grow the business from there. So I think definitely think strategically about your business. More than a business plan, this is definitely about thinking in 12 areas. So when I work with a client, I will always go through a 12-week period working with them to develop themselves a business growth strategy. And the things we'll focus on are our goals and objectives. That'll be number one. And we'd look at setting a very specific revenue goal that we want to achieve in the next 12 months, the next 24, the next 36 months. So it gives us a real clear path of where we want to go. Then, obviously, if we have a look at our targeting, so I was talking about going very deep and very narrow into a subject. So I would look at targeting as what type of company do we need to be sat in front of? And who are the people within that company? So in a B2B space, there's usually 5 or 6 decision makers within a company. There'll be a hero that will get you through the door. So it might be a procurement manager, it might be an IT manager, might be the marketing manager or the sales manager, or even the owner that you're going after. But around those people, there'll be a sphere of influence. There'll be other people they talk to in their business. So again, get really good at knowing exactly what type of business, so what size, what revenue, what sector do they work in, because you need to know all this for the next step, which will be understanding the problems that they have, and then obviously creating solutions to help them with those problems. Because I think we buy everything to get us out of pain and towards some sort of prize, and that's, the ability to be able to talk to your audience and understand what sort of problems they're experiencing on a day-to-day basis and know them better than themselves. I mean, I go through a process with my clients where we identify 100 problems. I make them sit down and think, what are the questions you hear? What are the problems? And then we break that down. What's the source of that problem? What are some of the symptoms that you would notice if people have that problem? And then what are the costs? If you can come up with a cost of that problem and some of the consequences of not solving that problem, understanding that level, Shivam, is really key. And I think for anyone starting a new business, if they did that part really well, they'd be seen as an expert from day one. And that's the key. We're out there in a marketplace that's very noisy. And if you've read my book, you'll know I talk about in there being a specialist and not a generalist.
Yeah,
Um,
I want you should show the cover of your
yeah,
book
yeah.
as well, so
Okay,
that
so
my
my
viewer
book,
can get to know.
Remarkable Business Growth, there it is by Richard
This
Moore.
this books is available on Amazon. If you can want to buy, I will put the link in my
Yeah,
description.
absolutely.
And you can
And in the book, I talk a lot about targeting being really key to success in the modern business because if you go very general, and a lot of business B2B people try and offer everything to everybody, but then I think you're always going to be compared on price because no one's got a way of differentiating you from everybody else in the competition. Whereas if your website and your all of your marketing copy and the way you approach people says this is who we look after really well, this is how we do it, and this is why we do it better than anybody else, then you are seen as an expert and a specialist from day one. And we'll all pay for experts. We're all happy to pay an expert. We wouldn't pay a generalist as much, but if we think, well, this person has done this before, he's an expert in doing what he does, then you'll get the results, and I think that's a really key thing for any new business watching this is get that targeting spot on. And then part 3 would be positioning. So you now know who you're targeting. How do you position your business in front of those people regularly? And I think there's 2 parts to positioning, Shivam. There's actually positioning your business. So I always work with my clients on a business positioning statement, which is a few lines really talking directly to that person. So how do I position my business in front of them so I differentiate myself from everyone else in my marketplace? And then how do I position my offers? So when they see my offers and our core offering, core services, products and solutions that we offer to that marketplace, they instantly get that that's how it'll get me from A to B. That's how it'll get me from the problem I've got at the moment towards solving that problem and where I want to be. So very key to understand positioning. Then I do market analysis. So I'll go into the 5 or 6 competitors you come across the most, some of the big boys in the market. And again, what I'm analyzing there is I'm trying to look for gaps. So are there any gaps that we can capitalize on? As a good marketer, you'll try and find a gap that you can really, and for me, it was video and YouTube. When I was trying to get breakthrough in the coaching and consulting arena for small business owners, I focused a lot of time on my YouTube channel. And that still, 4 or 5 years later, still generates me more traffic than anything else. And then LinkedIn as well, because it's B2B. LinkedIn was where me and you met on LinkedIn, didn't we? And I've really fostered that network. But like you do very well, and I will say this to pat you on the back, is you always pay forward. You're not asking for things. You're sort of saying, can I help you? Can I help you? You're sharing your network, introducing me to people like the chap you've introduced me to in Switzerland about his software company and AI. This is how I've always done mine, Shibam. I've always said, I'm not here to sell to you on LinkedIn. I'm here to help you get what you need. And then when I
exactly.
need a favor down the line, when you need a favor, people are there. People will say, oh, I know so and so. Why don't I introduce to them? And that's really key. I think being social on social media, a lot of people just try and sell on there. And I think we just don't follow it, do we? I mean, you wouldn't, would you? If all you were was sold to, you wouldn't follow someone. So
Exactly.
again,
Nobody is going to follow the salesman,
no,
to be
no,
honest.
no, no. Yeah, we can all get sold to, but so market analysis is key for that for me. I'm looking at how do other people in my market speak to my target audience. So I've done my targeting, got my positioning. Now I'll analyze that, looking for gaps, platforms that I can really capitalize on that they don't do well. But then some of the things they do well, that's just best practice. If it's working for them, then I don't have to reinvent the wheel here. I can just do a version of that for my business. So I'll then go through my product offering, and product offerings really go right from your free products, which might be a checklist, it might be guides, it might be, content that you can give people for free. I do video series. Then I'll have products for prospects, which is really turning that attention I've got on the free products into a name and an email address in my CRM. So again, that's a very different type of product because a lot of it's gated, but it's high value, still low risk because all they're giving you is a name and email address. but then that allows you to nurture that relationship with those people. So if you went on my ignitegrowth.co.uk website, you'll see I offer a guide to planning out the perfect small business growth strategy. I offer a guide to growing your business, the main areas to think about. I've got a scorecard. So I like Score App's scorecard approach of producing a self-diagnostic tool that someone can answer some questions and they can get a PDF report back specifically for them. But again, it's a great lead gen thing because they're getting maximum value from it, So those are the
Yeah.
things I would do with my product offerings. And then there's obviously our core product that we would offer. So our main services that we're known for, like for you to be your marketing services. And then when people love you for delivering results there, then they'll naturally ask you what else you can do for them. I have it all the time where I'll start with a strategy work for 12 weeks, then they become a 12-month consultancy client. And then we will look at me sitting on the board just to help them employ staff, things like that. I'll say, would you want me to employ a marketing executive and I'll train them up for you? So all these things feed in from each other, but you become an integral part of that business. So then do your
Yeah.
sales plan, your marketing plan, what campaigns you need to attract, how many leads you need to generate, how you're going to convert them through a sales process. So each step of your sales process will have a metric for conversion. So as a lead comes in, what's the first step in your process? Is it a call? Do you do a 15-minute call just to understand what they're looking at, where their problems are, and if there's a good fit? That's how I used to do it with my agency. It was a 15-minute call that led to an hour-long exploratory call, which then led to a presentation, and then it was closed won or closed lost. So it was literally, we had a slick system that at every stage, we knew if we got them into the presentation, I think it was 58% would convert into a client. So we had the metrics really down for that. So it's important that you do that. Then think of your recruitment plan. So think about, I can't do this all on my own. What key team members do I want? And of course, nowadays it's all about AI as well. So can we start using agentic? Can we start using AI agents in our business to do some of these repetitive tasks so the humans are free to do other things? I always say salespeople, if you let them, will spend 80% of the time doing admin. That means only 20% of the
Exactly.
time's on the phone actually speaking to someone.
Yeah. So
So
exactly.
if you built an agent to do a lot of that admin, it means your sales team naturally are spending more and more time on the phone selling. So again, recruitment plan's important, operational delivery. So how to be remarkable with your delivery. So you've won me as a customer. How are you going to wow me? How are you going to delight me? How are you going to make me feel special? So that really is all about really remarkable operational delivery. Service and support. So if things go wrong or you're helping me be successful with what you do, how do you do that? How do you ask me for questions in a survey? Would you send me a survey to help you improve your service? Would you ask me for a review? Would you ask for referrals? All this is, I feel, is part of service and support because you've delighted people, and that now you can start using their expertise on what you do to improve what you do. And then I go into systems and technology, which is one of my pet areas, building up a connected system of tools so that I've got this single source of truth at the heart of my business that tells me every touch point that's happening with the outside world, I'm gathering data on. Because again, in remarkable business growth, I say that remarkable businesses make every touch point remarkable. When you go on the website, you go, wow, I never expected that. When you speak to someone, you go, wow, I never expected that when they deliver to you. So I always say, unless you have technology helping you measure all this, it's really hard to track what's great and what's
Exactly.
bad. And I think it was
Exactly.
Gary Vaynerchuk said, the market will always tell you what's good, what they like. Get rid of your own opinion and let the market tell you what they're, and that's really key.
Do you like the Gary's advice?
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just been following him
Yeah, yeah.
since.
And I think I liked him 4 or 5 years ago when he was really at his prime. I thought he was really giving great advice then. But that was something always stuck with me that, stop telling yourself you're a great marketer. The market will tell you whether they like what you do.
Exactly.
It punches you in the face if you get it wrong, but it'll actually praise you if you get it right. So I think that systems and technology is really key that we have Using AI is massive, like I've just said earlier, but also there's tools out there like your marketing tools, social media posting tools. Think of a good CRM system so you can track all these different interactions with people at different time. And then if you're not in Shivam, your team can pick that conversation up as if they'd just been speaking to that person. All that should be seamless nowadays. And because it's technology and its data, it means we can then measure it and get good at optimizing what we do to make it better. So the final area I would do and the 12th area is metrics and reporting. So what dashboards do I need? And I in my book I talk about the 5 key dashboards I would always set up with every client. So they just have real clarity on what's working. And then you'll also know what's not working and what you could make work better. And I think when you get good data coming into your business and you understand it, that's what it'll enable you to do. It'll enable you to grow really predictably. And I always say to my clients, just try and take your opinion out of it, because we're all entrepreneurs because we've got strong opinions. That's why we've set businesses up. That's why we do what we do. But actually, we often get in our own way, whereas if you looked at the data and it's there in black and white, you can't lie to yourself then. It'll say, yes, you've done well, or no, you haven't. So I always say to clients, just get with simple dashboards to start with, probably your top level dashboard, and then go from there. But I think that would help you, or anyone watching this, really start to think about their business in a different way. Rather than just going in and tactically executing every day, being very busy and not growing very quickly. I think if you can make yourself think strategically and then come away from it, and that's why I always say do that work first, because every year you'll be going back to your strategy and saying, right, that worked well, that didn't work well, we need to do more of that, we need to do less of that. So a long answer for the first question, but hopefully that's given plenty of value.
That's going to be really worth for it. Yeah.
Okay.
So like Richard, somebody went to a consultant like you and asked for that and get the help, the paperwork done, and the blueprint is ready. Coming to the office, starting their first day.
Yeah.
What are the top most marketing channels or lead generation channels? I would ask you that these new startups and new businesses should start from the day one, that they can just get something very quickly in terms of lead
and
generation, basically.
Yeah, I would go back to content. I still think with AI and everything, I still think content is the most valuable thing you can produce. And I think videos got easier and easier. You can see behind me, I've got my podcast set up here. I do lots of videos. I posted one the other day about AI in small businesses. So I think when you've done the work in your guide, it'll be pretty obvious what type of content you've got to create. So if you've got a list of 100 problems, then I would produce a video or a blog post or something that addresses each of those 100 problems. It's as simple as that, because people will be out there searching those, whether they're searching it on AI, whether they're searching it on Google, they will be searching for answers to those problems. So to grab their attention, you need to be sharing your solutions and your answers to those questions in content on your website, on social media. You need to probably produce a guide which would identify some of the key problems. It's not hard actually, because we do the problems and then we'll do what are the mistakes people are making, what are them things they're thinking, things they're doing that are stopping them getting to their prize, stopping them solving the problems they've got. And that's really good content, because it's like you're thinking like the person you're talking to. So these are some of the mistakes people often make, like with AI. That's what I'm addressing, mistakes people make with AI at the moment, because they try and dive in too deep too quickly, rather than identifying one area they could automate in their business with AI, then move on to another one. And it's so I think as a lead gen thing, I still think content can't be beaten. I'm still a big inbound fan. I was a big HubSpot fan back in the day. And their whole inbound marketing mentality is still works. It's just had to be tweaked slightly. But great content can be produced, podcasts like this, live content. And then, as I say, having guides, checklists, having some sort of self-diagnostic tool like Score App. As I say, those are the ones I would focus on first, because for every one of my clients, I just get results very quickly with those. It brings new people in. And then when you want to add paid into the mix, when you want to scale up, you can add paid ads in. And that will feed those, so you can share your guide to a wider audience. You'll get people giving you their name and email address, then into a sequence of nurture emails, a nurture sequence, so all of that works from day one. It doesn't really change. It's just a matter of identifying what's the most valuable to my target audience. What will they engage with, and then how do I get it out there to them?
Yeah.
Does that make
So,
sense?
Richard, yeah, exactly. So, for example, let's say somebody have hired for an agency for the complete lead generation process. Either it's a content or any tool or any pay promotion, whatever it is.
Yeah,
And let's say the sales team is sitting in-house of those businesses.
yeah,
What is the one thing that you have found in your last so many years of work experience, how you can streamline both so that
yeah.
the sales team sitting in-house and the marketing agency working for the business can be in the same line? It doesn't be like a up and downs going on, like you cannot
Yeah.
understand them or they are not going to understand you. What's type of suggestion you want to give in that point?
Yeah, and I think for me it was having we call it sales enablement, but it's basically that your marketing team is taking a real function on helping your sales team to land deals. So that was always our first thing was I think it was Dan Tyre at HubSpot always used to talk about smarketing. He says there's no sales and marketing in separate silos anymore. It's all as one. It's one team because they're
Exactly.
generating revenue. So having feedback loops, having regular meetings between the marketing and sales team is a really healthy thing to do. And we did it with our agency. If we were an agency working in a company with a sales team of 3 or 4 salespeople, we'd say, how can we make your leads better? How can we make conversion better for you? What are the questions you're hearing? You're out there talking to customers every single day. We've got to find a way of you feeding back to us questions you're hearing from them, because that question early on could then become an objection later on if we don't answer it. And we can produce a video, we can produce some guides, we can produce something for you to address that early doors so it doesn't become an issue later on. And I think that's what a good sales process does. It's always helpful. You're always helping people make the right decision for them. So if you hold my hand throughout a sales process, Shibam, and then at the end, I've got to make a decision on who I use, it should be logical to be you. And if it isn't, then there's something that I haven't answered in your mind. So yeah, definitely focus on a sales enablement mentality. I talk about it in my book, but there's lots of books on sales enablement, how marketing and sales work very, very closely together now. They're not separate anymore. So if you run a marketing agency like you guys, then you've got to find a way of having regular communication with that sales team, and listen to their problems. Say what can we do to either nurture a lead to be more engaged with you, because again, we would always have like a matrix set up with the sales team saying what's a good fit lead look like. Oh well, they're this size company, they're this. We talked about it earlier with targeting. So I said, so that's black and white. They're either a good fit or they're not a good fit. When you get to that level in B2B, that's why I like B2B over B2C, because I can get to a small business with 1 to 9 employees turning over 500K a year in these sectors, in manufacturing or construction. That'll be a yes, they fit that, or no, they don't fit that. There's no gray area there. But then they need to be engaged with our business. So they've got to be a good fit for what we do, and they've got to be highly engaged with us. So I've got to be able to see from my CRM that they've been through my website. And if you've used HubSpot or anything like that, you can see what pages they've looked at
Exactly.
on your website. Lead
Exactly.
scoring's an amazing thing. We set up lead scoring for so many points if they read a blog post, so many points if they download a guide, so many points if they open an email, if they click a link in an email. So we can lead score the most engaged people within our CRM constantly. And marketing's got a big part to play in that, because marketing does the nurture sequences. You'd have an email sequence created for somebody to nurture that relationship and improve it. Just keep feeding them with other bits of content to help them make the right decision. So really, I always say to salespeople, I'm making your life bloody easy here because I'm doing your hard work. A lot of the things that,
Exactly.
because we know, don't we, Shivam, that people are out there doing their own research. In the good old days, 10, 15 years ago, the salespeople held all the cards. They were the people who had all the knowledge, had the pricing, had the solutions. Nowadays, we're all out there doing our own research. So the sales team are actually getting involved far later in the decision making process than they ever have before. But marketing don't. We can produce content that can stimulate people who may have a problem to start thinking about it. We can then bring them into, from awareness, we can bring them into a consideration stage where they're starting to look at the different solutions out there. So we can give them more and more content to help support that research. And then at decision making stage, like I say, you should be at least one of the one or two people they're going to consider to use for what they need to do. So that's how I would align. I would always say there is no separate sales and marketing anymore. It's all one, and we work together like that to make sure that the end result is easier wins, higher conversion rates, and happier customers. So
That's a very great answer, because this is going to help so many agencies who are going to watch this.
yeah.
And definitely, because we consider marketing and sales a different team, but this is a very good point that they both are same because they are generating revenue. So my last question is just here for, do we not want to know about your lead dynamic software, what it is and how is helping businesses in UK itself, or
Yep.
maybe it's a for whole worldwide. The software is made for what it is, so we can also see what we can you how we can use it.
Yeah, well, Lead Dynamic I set up 18 months ago because HubSpot was getting so expensive for small businesses. There's no way around it. Salesforce is around £2,000, £2,000 a month. HubSpot, I think, is around 1,200 a month to get the functionality you really need in a business. So I really wanted to find something that I could offer to my clients, my consultancy clients, that I could give them the functionality they needed, but for around £395, £495 a month. So that's why I built Lead Dynamic. Was really on the back end. I got a SaaS license for a white label product that I could then use my coders and my friends to tailor to become Lead Dynamic. Just so it gave people the dashboards, the marketing tools, it gave them a good CRM, all of those tools in one place. So that was 18 months ago. We've been using that for, as I say, for well over a year now. I've got about 30 odd users, I think, using it, which are all my clients. I haven't really sold it publicly. It's just people who get recommended to me, and then I'll onboard them and make sure they're using it properly to grow their business. So that was where it was. And it is now, I've started with a friend of mine from Malaysia who we were building websites together. He's actually from the UK, but he moved out there and married a girl and lives in Kuala Lumpur. We've now started building an AI first. It's basically an AI native CRM system. But it's using the ability AI has to understand your business. So it will scan your business. It'll ask you questions about your business at the start. So we've built something called Base Insight, which does all this. It will then create you a tech stack of tools that is specific for your business. So my goal is for every user to have something built for their business. Whereas before with HubSpot, I always found that you'd use about 30% of what you were paying for, because a lot of the tools you just never used. So that was our goal, was to have this really bespoke, tailored system built for a small business and say, well, you need email marketing because you're going to be sending newsletters out. You need to have some paid ads in there. You need to have a sales pipeline with these stages in it. You need probably these fields of data in your CRM. So it was really to use how, I mean, have you ever used projects in ChatGPT?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
used some. Yeah.
You'll know then with a project, I use them for all my consultancy clients. And it was that gave me this idea that as I fed more and more meeting notes into a project, it understood that client as well as I did.
Exactly.
So when I did all the persona work and I'd had got 2 or 3 personas in there, I'd got all their business goals, the whole strategy was fed into there, and I thought, wouldn't that be amazing if that was the start of your journey with your tech stack? Because then every single business would have a tech stack designed for them, regardless of what industry they are in. So that's what we did. My friend Chris built that in in Lovable. He built a basically a model of that. And then on the other side, once that's set up, I wanted 6 of the best employees that person had ever had. So I've built 6 agents in there, 6 AI agents, basically an admin agent whose whole job is to save you 2 hours a day of time. Then there's a mini me, there's a business strategist in there. So basically, that'll keep you focused on your strategic thinking. And then we've got a marketing, she's called Marla. So there's a marketing agent in there to do some of your marketing tasks, free your marketing team up to do other things. Then we've got a sales agent called Quinn, who's there to manage your pipeline, do some prospecting for you. He's linked to Apollo, the lead source Apollo. Then we've got Sophie's a service and support agent. We've then got a Dex, who's a data analyst who pulls all the data coming into that business together and produces dashboards. So that was my big idea, was to produce this that's AI native, gets rid of a lot of the problems that small business owners have with, in their own business and with trying to set up a tech stack, and keep it affordable. That was what we wanted to do. So that's what's coming next from Lead Dynamic. We're in the process of building the minimum viable product out, and then we're going to be launching that in January. We've got 20 beta testers already on. But if anyone watching this wants to be in our founding 50, which are the first 50 users, we're actually building a list out of those people so that they can use it, feedback to us what they'd want to see. So actually help us craft the perfect software for a small business. So that's the exciting part.
Yeah.
That's where it's going.
It sounds like really interesting for the small business units who do
Yeah.
not want to invest a huge amount in that.
Yeah, I think enterprise software
they can
doesn't
just
work
go.
for
Yeah,
them, does it? It's just so expensive.
exactly.
And I want something that's recommending to me every day, so these agents actually talk to each other as they run tasks, the results of the tasks, they then talk to the other agents to improve those results. So you talk about the marketing and sales team being aligned. Well, those 2 agents will talk to each other, and then they all feed their data back into Base Insight to improve the system further and make recommendations to the business owner, make recommendations to the marketing team. That's where AI is going. And that's what excites me. It could actually level the playing field for small business. 1 or 2, 3 people can compete with the big boys, and that's where we hope it's going to take them.
Yeah, exactly. So, Richard, it's like really interesting things that you have told me here about your software. Definitely, whenever it will be ready, I
Yep.
will update the link on this
Yep.
video so that anybody wants to go in and just want to have a test or demo, want to
Yep.
speak to you, they can just reach out to you directly.
More than
So,
happy to
yeah,
do that.
then,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah. And as you have given me like enough answers about my questions, and I think like people, those who are going to watch this, definitely going to just learn how marketing and sales team are not different. They're the same. So it's a really great insights that you have given today. And I'm really thankful for that. And thank you so much for joining this session. And want to see you soon with some good insights.
Yeah, well, as I say, anyone wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, they'll find me on LinkedIn. They can connect with me on there. So I'm always happy to talk through some of these things with people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Richard. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great day and see you soon.
Take care. Bye.